Hey everybody, welcome to our post-NFL draft coverage here on HBCU Gameday. Of course, we are concerned about where our HBCU guys go, and we had 3 guys drafted, and now we have 3 guys to talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Dolly Carr, Stephen J. Gaither, and Wally Pitt. Now, the first guy to get drafted was Darius Leonard from South Carolina State. Wally, you spent the most time with him because you actually made the trip down to Orangeburg, and you presented the HBCU Gameday Protect Your Skull Player of the Year award to Darius just a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway when you saw him drafted and you got a chance to spend the afternoon with him previously?
Well, the biggest takeaway when you see him drafted is the 36th pick. I mean, that is a extremely high number, in terms of HBCU guys. I mean, I know the draft doesn't break down, but to be the 36th guy taken overall, man, I mean, that's amazing. And we actually talked a little bit about the draft. I tried not to jinx him or whatever, but when I handed him the trophy, I was like, next is going to be your Super Bowl trophy after you get drafted. And he was like, yeah, we joked about it. And, he laughed and said, yeah, I'm about to start working out. But the funniest thing is I can't remember which game it was. I think it was A&T. I was shooting pregame B-roll. And a lot of the times you'll see the scouts sitting there, and I saw a guy, it was a Colts scout, and he was like confusedly looking around, and I nudged him. I said, "You looking for number 10 too?" And he laughed but had a serious face and said, "Yeah, actually, where is he?" And I was like, "Oh, he just went back to the locker room." So it's funny that, and he wasn't the only scout there at all. I probably saw about 3 or 4 at least. I think they might have to wear their shirts because you can, they got the little logo on the shirt. But it was funny. I actually interacted with that guy, and that's the one who picked him. So, yeah, man, you never know. They had their eyes on him all year long.
Now, Stephen, we were kind of hedging our bets as we prepare our coverage, and you kind of headed that up. That, all right, who's going to go first? Are we going to be ready to get it out? And we had kind of started leaning a little bit towards big stuff, Mr. Parker over at A&T. Were you surprised that Leonard went before Parker?
Not at all. Not a lot, but yeah. I mean, Parker is offensive tackle. He's a big specimen. And he got drafted to sent to the NFL Combine. So it was a little bit of a surprise that he went, before Parker. But I mean, he's obviously very skilled. He's actually, I just did the research. He's actually the highest picked HBCU guy that we've had since in the game day era, since 2013. So, I mean, it was really awesome to see him get picked that early in the draft. I mean, the end of the first round is only the 32nd pick, and he was a 36th pick. So, I mean, he had a great career at South Carolina State, and they have a history of putting out, really great NFL talent all the way back to Harry Carson, Deacon Jones, Donnie Shell, Robert Porcher. So they have a great reputation. Javon Hargrave, who he played with. So I think everyone, like Wally said, everybody knew about him coming into the season and even going back into last year. And so it's great for a young guy who, really you talk to him and he seems really mature for, his young age and everything like that. So, I mean, it was great to see him go that early and, some inspiration. So hopefully he can, and he'll be joining a former Colts. They've had some luck getting some HBCU players. Robert Mathis, who's going to probably be the next guy to go in the Hall of Fame from Alabama A&M. And I believe he's a coach actually at the Colts. Like, he does some coaching with them. He just retired, and he's also a Q just like Leonard. So a lot of parallels there. If he can have half of the career that Robert Mathis had, I think the Colts will be very happy getting him in the second round.
Yeah,
well, the best part, Wally, I hate to cut you off, is the reception, the family.
Hi, y'all.
Hello.
Darius. And we had a chance to see that where he gets the call, all your cousins, all your uncles, maybe some cousins you hadn't seen in a while, who had a little incentive to reconnect.
Clay cousins.
Yeah, the old Tupac and Janet Jackson. Hey, cousin. It looks like they had a really good time, and you're just happy for a kid. Because, the thing is, guys talk about, man, you go to an HBCU, you're just going to kill your chances to go pro. So it's great to see a guy who made that choice. He stuck with it, did a great job, and got drafted as high as he did. I wasn't surprised at all that he got drafted. I was a little surprised that he went that high. But, hey, when you find the guy that you like and you want him, you got to take him off the board before somebody else gets him. And this year was really, guys, just so topsy-turvy. Like, no player from the SWAC was drafted. We had 2 MEAC players drafted and a CIAA player. Trent Cannon goes to the Jets. Now, I'm not surprised. I had no doubt he had NFL talent. We've all seen it up close and in person several times. But I just thought that the NFL's kind of business model was, okay, that's a guy we can get on the cheap as a undrafted free agent. How surprised were you guys that Cannon actually got drafted and didn't have to go the free agent route?
Yeah. I thought coming into this year, like you said, after seeing him twice in person last year in 2016, I thought he had NFL talent. I thought, you sit on the sidelines and they brought this up on Twitter, and I hate to bring it up, but you sit on the sidelines and watching him. And I think Wally, you and I had the same, sentiment, last year, like you watch him and you get a feeling like you got with Tariq Cohen when he took the ball anytime he could go the distance. And we saw him do that a lot last year and just his entire career. But yeah, like you said, Talia, from him being a D2 HBCU, not just an HBCU guy, in the FCS, but a D2 HBCU guy, and especially a position at running back where HBCUs, you think about, talk about Walter Payton, but in the last 30 or so years, there haven't really been a lot of great NFL backs that have come from HBCUs, or really even a lot of guys who have gotten a lot of chance. So, but I think the thing that he worked in his favor was that he was a return guy. They actually utilized him in the return game. Cohen didn't really get used in the returning game too much because they had an All-American kick returner there. And obviously he showed, in spurts last year that he can do that. But I think for Cannon, that was key for him doing that. He's a little bit bigger. He didn't get invited to the NFL Combine like Tariq did last year, but I think that, he was enough of, I think with a guy like him, it's like, and I think that's why it's so important what we do and HBCU Gameday is because, we talk about a guy like him all year and he becomes less and less of a secret. And so, you take him at the end of that 6th round because, maybe maybe nobody else would have taken him. But I know he worked out for the Denver Broncos. And then the last time I talked to him about 2 weeks ago, he told me he was going to be working out for the Jets. And he goes to the Jets. Who's to say that if the Jets said, hey, you know what? We like this guy, but we're not sure. He's a D2 guy. Let's just see if we can get him in free agency. Then maybe the Broncos would have stepped up and got him. So I think that, it's just really great to see them getting that value. And I think that's a big part of what we do. So I think it was rewarding on our end, I think, Waleed.
Yeah, and before the draft, I expected to see him go a little higher, but after watching the whole draft, this was a running back deep draft. There were big school running backs going all over the place. But a lot of people are giving him the direct Tariq comparison just because they're 2 HBCU running backs, but I've been saying it, all season. They're really 2 different type of speed backs. Tariq will juke you out of your shoes, and Trent Cannon will be like make 1-2 moves and he's gone, and he doesn't even look like he's running that fast. Where Tariq looks like you've pressed fast forward. So they're similar only in the fact that they're super fast and they went to HBCUs. But
he's more of a straight line, like Cannon is just straight line runner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Tariq will run them circles. Tariq's like Ricky Waters on Madden 94. Like, you just keep running backwards, and eventually he's gonna find some space. But yeah, man, I'm excited for him. I did think he would go a little higher, but he went, and nothing beats a draft day phone call, like we were talking about. Seeing the Darius Leonard tape, seeing Trent Cannon's as well. There's just nothing beats that moment where the dude is on the phone getting that call.
And it's tough. I mean, you even look at a guy like DeLance Turner. He, from Alcorn State, he was a guy who, it really is a big thing that he got drafted, period. Because, DeLance Turner was like the second leading rusher in the FCS. And he wasn't able to get drafted. He had to go the free agent route. He's going to the Baltimore Ravens. We'll talk about those guys later. But I think, again, with Cannon, with his ability to do what he does, especially in the kick return game, as well as, possibly being able to run too, because I know they talked about they really like him in the kick return game. So I think that definitely, it's been we went almost 20 years without having one HBCU running back taken. So anytime they get one, I'm happy, because I think the last one before Tariq was a guy from Livingstone, Wilmot Perry.
That's my wheelhouse. That's the 90s.
Yeah, so you had actually, and then before him you had Richard Huntley from Winston-Salem State. So
dust off the VHS there.
So Cannon kind of broke through, and I can't remember. I don't think since Game Day's been started that CIAA's had a skill position offensive player drafted. Most of the time, those guys, get a camp invite at best. Even Phil Simms, who started off at Alabama and finished up at WSSU, he had to get the camp invite. So, it's a big deal that he got drafted at all. So,
well, here's my question to you guys. In the modern kind of NFL, running backs are used out of the backfield as receivers a lot. Those little flare-out routes or out in the flat or whatever. From what you guys have seen of Cannon, and you've seen him more in the last couple of years than I have, does he appear to you to be a back who can also kind of be like a receiver out of the backfield, or do you just see him a guy looking to get between the tackles and hit the outside? What do you think?
Nah, definitely. He definitely has good hands as a receiver, for sure.
Yeah, I can see him as a slot receiver for sure. He's I think he's 5'10", 5'11", so there are a lot of slot receivers in the NFL that are that size, and they talk about he's best in space. And if you get him out there on one of those little go routes, those little screens, he can, he's not Tariq. He's not gonna run around a corner and everything, but he has enough make you miss that. If he can make one move, he ran a 4.40. I think Tariq was 4.441. So right in that same range, speed wise. There, but just like you say, just in a different way. So, I think if he can get in space as a kick returner, and then the sky's the limit for him. So
I'm 4'3", as in 43.
Yeah, like you said about that size, he definitely can, be out in the slot. He's a pretty good blocker. He's got some bulk to him. But one thing I noticed in the draft is there was a lot of talk about guys about the kickoff rule changing. And about how since there might not be kickoffs upcoming in a year or so, that a lot of guys weren't getting that chance taken. I know they talked about Shaquem Griffin, who has one hand, and they were saying that reason he might have dropped is because the kickoffs, the special teams guys might not be as valued. So I wonder if that played in with some of the HBCU guys who we thought might go as well,
Now, Wally, when you were up at, Homecoming, Virginia State, Reggie Barlow, the coach at Virginia State, who knows a lot about the NFL, having played and also he was an assistant coach in the NFL too, right? Am I right on that?
I think he did a little time there.
He definitely played. Definitely had a career. But Wally, his coach, if my memory serves me correct, that 4'3" creeping up again, he was caping up for Cannon as having NFL talent when you talk to him, right?
Oh yeah, and he gave us the best quote ever.
And as his coach Reggie Barlow so eloquently stated, Trent Cannon is good.
Trent Cannon is good. He's an NFL running back. I played in that league for 8 years. Played with some really good running backs, and Trent Cannon is he's an NFL guy.
And that was all he gave us. So yeah, he definitely straight up said he's an NFL guy, and I think everybody saw it. So even in the 6th round, I think the Jets they're getting a guy, and just a hard working. We've talked about this before. You meet him, and it's like meeting the delivery. The pizza delivery guy. He's quiet. He ain't gonna say too much. But on the field, he's got that vicious focus. So I think once he gets into a training camp, and I don't think the lights are going to be too bright for him. I don't think we've seen the best from Cannon yet, honestly. I think once he gets in the NFL system, we're going to see him go to a whole new level. So it's going to be exciting. I'm going to be a low-key Jets fan, that's for sure.
Steve, tell us about some of the undrafted free agents and maybe even some of the camp invites. Those transactions happen a lot as soon as the draft ends. Who are some of the big-name HBCU guys who weren't drafted but did get a call after the draft was over?
So right over the last 2 years, one of the dominant team, consistently dominant team has been Grambling. They won the last 2 SWAC championships, and they went to the Celebration Bowl 2016. We saw them win. 2017, they lost. So they had a couple guys that were up for it, Devontae Kincaid, Martez Carter, and a couple of the other guys. And so so Carter didn't get drafted. There was hopeful, there was a lot of hope, just like with Cannon, that he would get drafted, but it didn't happen for him that way. And so he ended up, signing a free agent deal with the Washington Redskins. I watched the video. He had everyone there for draft day and didn't get drafted, but I saw the video from, I think, Corey Diaz of the Star Tribune.
I appreciate it, Ethan. Nice talking to you.
Okay, I'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
So now you gotta come home.
That was Ethan. Ethan is the head of our department at First Line Management. And we had the Panthers. We had a Panthers deal, but I would have just been another body over there at the Panthers. And Doug kind of ensured that, if I lose the weight and kind of come in like I did at Grambling and put in on special teams. I already signed my contract with the Panthers, so I mean with the Redskins. So
Former Redskin?
You?
Yeah. Oh, you? Yeah. I do what I meant.
We a Redskin.
Yay!
So I appreciate y'all again for coming out.
And he said that the Panthers wanted him. But he felt like with the Panthers, he would just be another camp body. But the Redskins, he ended up signing with the Redskins. And, of course, the Redskins, we wrote about that last year. The Redskins, Doug Williams, Super Bowl winning champion, Grambling legend, is there. And so he kind of swayed him in that direction. So selfishly, I know Wally and myself would have loved to have him here in the Carolinas.
You see it over my shoulder.
Yeah, we would have loved to have him here in the Carolinas, but it's that Graham fam connection that brought him over to the Redskins. So he's going to get Mr. Excitement is going to Washington. So we'll see what that brings. And then he's going to have some company as well from the SWAC. Danny Johnson, a defensive back and kick returner from punt returner from Southern, from the other side of Louisiana. He is going as well. So they got 2 SWAC guys that are going to be in there. And if you remember last year, the Redskins signed Verlin Hunter, who was a wide receiver with Grambling. And I think they signed another Grambling guy as well, earlier this year. So, Doug Williams is giving his guys a chance. They're going to have to come in there and earn it. I think Carter talked about, he's going to have to come in there and lose a little bit of weight and work hard. But he's like, Doug Williams really swayed him towards the Redskins. So that was big for those guys. And then, you also had, a couple other guys going as well. So, but that was definitely 2 guys who we thought might get drafted and, ended up, going the free agent route. So, and also from Grambling, there were 3 guys. There was Trent Scott. And whenever I think of him, I'm always going to think of the Bayou Classic when I was leaving out. And there's just one guy, he just has his big chain on. And he's like setting, he's a cute, obviously. So he's just setting it out, doing the Atomic Dog all by his damn self. A great look for him as well. So Grambling had 3 guys to go.
And Wally, a lot of times it's better. I mean, of course, you would rather get drafted, a little more security, but it is the NFL. They can get rid of you at any time, but definitely a little more money. But the one positive about being an undrafted free agent, you get to pick where you want to go if you have multiple suitors, and you can pick a location or a situation that best fits your skills, or you can kind of, judge what your chances might be of making the team, right?
Yeah, and I bet for these guys it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because they really want to get drafted. That being drafted is like the culmination, and I can imagine that there's a little bit of disappointment in not hearing your name called. But if you're looking at it from an on the field perspective, like you said, he got to look at the Panthers and look at the Redskins and say, well, hey, I got to grab the connection. I actually might have more space in the backfield. Let me maneuver over here. So I was surprised Carter didn't get drafted. There was, you talked about Corey Diaz. There was a funny tweet of Martez Carter playing Uno on the hood of a car, waiting to see if his name got called. So, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get drafted, but I'm glad he's going to a situation that he feels is best. Me personally, I wish he'd have came on to Carolina, but you never know. There's a lot of time and a lot of things can happen. So,
Steve, out of the guys who didn't get drafted, who is the one person that you think has the most potential to make an impact, or at the very least stick with their team and be a contributor?
Well, out of the UDFAs, I would say Trent Scott, who and I want to correct that, he's going to the Chargers. Offensive tackle. They've had trouble on the offensive line. So I mean, anytime you can plug in and fill a need, I think that Carter, remains to be seen what the Redskins offense is going to look like this year in the first year of post Kirk Cousins. And so, yeah, and one guy that I haven't seen sign a deal yet, and I'm checking as we speak with the Game Day research.
As we speak on a Sunday night. So
as we speak on Sunday night, Anthony Filyaw, he's a running back out of Howard. And I know, Wally, you got the chance to see him in 2017. I saw him in 2016. And he's a big physical running back. He's 6'1", over 200 pounds. And I really, just like Martez Carter, I thought he had a chance to get drafted, but I thought I would see him with a free agent deal at this point. He hasn't got there yet. But, there's still a couple days left, and sometimes it takes a couple days. Greg Jenkins, that played at Alabama State, I think he played quarterback there, and then they had him switch over to receiver and a kick returner before he stuck with the Raiders. I think he had to wait a couple days back in 2013, 2014. So there's precedence there. And then you got to also look at the guy Devontae Kincaid, one of our favorite guys. He came to Grambling, had 2 great years, and almost ended it in storybook fashion with a second straight win in the Celebration Bowl and a second straight HBCU national championship. But he led him to 2 SWAC championships. I think he won 22 of the 25 games that he played in at Grambling. Just an excellent career. He was a big name guy coming out of high school, and he didn't get drafted yesterday. There was talk that maybe he would. He worked out with the Dallas Cowboys. I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he's talking about how he wants to really stay as a quarterback. But, hey, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be in the NFL. So if he had to, he would switch over to receiver. So he hasn't gotten he didn't get picked yesterday. And as of Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, he hasn't signed either. But I talked with him a little bit earlier. His agents are filling through some offers and talking with some teams. So, expect to hear something soon from him, and hopefully it's a good situation. Like I said, I mentioned Phil Simms, who played quarterback at WSSU, but started off at Alabama. Another guy who started off with the SEC pedigree and everything like that. He didn't get drafted. He got a camp invite. He went to camp and did his thing, and the tryout, and then he stuck all over the summer, and I think he was like the last guy cut. One of the last guys cut as a quarterback. So, still some great stories out there. And there's some other guys as well. Sam Boyd from St. Aug, who caught that big touchdown catch last year and at the game you and I saw at Holly. So there's a lot of guys out there that's just hoping for a chance.
Yeah, and congratulations to everyone. I'm sure, look, we're going to leave some names out. We can't go in depth and take the deep dive and talk about everyone personally. But look, if you put the work in and your dream is still alive, congratulations to you. And you won't find a bigger fan of your work than the three guys here and a multitude of other fans out there supporting HBCUs. Wally and Steven, I'll let you guys have the final word. Just your takeaway on this year's draft and kind of putting the button on the 2017 HBCU football season.
So I mean, I think it was it was an exciting year of Black college football in 2017. We saw a lot of great players do a lot of great things. Would have liked to see more guys get drafted. We had 4 in 2016, and then we had 3 this year. But happy for the guys that did get drafted. And again, the draft isn't everything. It's not where you start. It's where you finish. Just ask the guy in front of Tom Brady and a lot of other guys as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing this draft class. Some guys make some rosters outside of the ones who were drafted and make an impact. We had Tariq Cohen do what he did last year, and I think that that was hopefully that gave people more incentive to give these guys a chance, especially at the running back position.
Wally, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think this generation of guys is really kind of setting a benchmark as far as HBCUs going to the pros. I mean, not just guys getting drafted, but, like you said, the Javon Hargraves, a lot of guys getting these these free agent deals and making plays. And, talking about Kincaid, I think that might be the next step is the HBCU quarterbacks actually getting a chance, because there's, that one name that's going to come out next year of Amir Hall. I mean, looking at him, he is a textbook NFL quarterback to me. So I love what everybody's done, and just this generation of guys pushing the ball forward, and then hopefully next it's the quarterbacks. We got some running backs in, so hopefully we can get to the quarterbacks. But I mean, man, it's just great to see, and like we all three do, we're going to be here trying to turn these guys up and show the world what they can do. A lot of the guys who got drafted were a lot of the guys who we covered heavily. So, maybe get us out there to the SWAC a little bit more. We can shine on y'all too. So
all three guys that got drafted, we were on the field and up top for a lot of their games. So not to say that we sprinkled any magic pixie.
I'm gonna say, yeah, we.
But glad we were there. Glad we were there. That's a great point. I'm looking forward to next year. I don't try to rush time, but yeah, that quarterback at Bowie, I'm looking forward to him having a magical year, and it'll be fun and interesting to see if that translates to the next level. Guys, we did the Alabama State spring game on Saturday, and I heard Nick, and I hadn't heard Nick in person in a couple of months. It's not when the pep band does it, it's not quite the same, man. When you're out in that open air and it's just bouncing off the concrete walls. I'm ready for fall camp already, but we'll make it through the summer somehow. But football will be back before you know it. Stay with us here at HBCU Game Day, especially on the website HBCUGameday.com, as news develops about anyone who makes the team or any transactions or signings or whatever. We'll keep you up to date on all of that. For Wally Pitt, for Stephen J. Gaither, I'm Tolly Carr. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you soon.